Right now, somebody is pulling the seats out of a classic car and throwing away the most valuable thing in it. Not the engine, not the chrome, a crumpled piece of paper worth more than the car itself. The truth is, the real money in classic cars has never been about what's under the hood alone. It's about what's inside the cabin, tucked behind the dash, folded into the springs of the back seat, rolled up in the trunk, or sealed inside a compartment nobody has opened in 50 years. These are items that auction houses quietly factor into seven-figure estimates, and most collectors walk right past them. If you don't know what to look for, you've already lost money on every classic you've ever touched. Here are 10 of them. The first one catches more people off guard than anything else on this list. And it's so simple it almost sounds like a joke, until you see what it does to an auction estimate. The original broadcast sheet. If you've ever worked on a mopar from the late 1960s or early 70s, a Dodge Charger, a Plymouth Barracuda, a Road Runner, anything built by Chrysler during the muscle car era, there's a chance the most important document that car ever had is still hiding somewhere inside it. It's called a broadcast sheet, and most people who find one don't even realize what they're looking at. A broadcast sheet is a piece of thin, perforated paper that was printed at the assembly plant before the car even hit the line. It's essentially the car's birth certificate. Every option, every code, every factory-installed detail is listed on that sheet. Engine code, transmission type, axle ratio, paint color, interior trim, all of it. When the car was being assembled, workers at each station used the sheet to know which parts to bolt on. Once they were done, most of the time they just stuffed the sheet somewhere inside the car and moved on to the next one. Under the back seat, tucked into the springs, behind the glove box liner, under the carpet on the driver's side, between the gas tank and the trunk floor. Some have been found behind door panels and even above the headliner. These weren't meant to survive. They were shop trash, but surviving is exactly what many of them did. Here's why this matters so much. In the classic muscle car world, proving that a car is numbers matching, that the engine, the transmission, the body, and every major component are the originals that left the factory together, is everything. That's the difference between a car that's worth $40,000 and one that commands $200,000 or more. A broadcast sheet is the one document that proves it all, beyond the VIN plate, beyond the fender tag. It confirms what the factory actually built, in a way that nothing else can. Restorers and concours judges treat a matching broadcast sheet like gold. For a rare Hemi car or a low-production six-pack Cuda, a confirmed broadcast sheet can swing the value of the vehicle by tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes more. And yet, people pull apart these cars for restoration all the time and throw these sheets in the garbage, because they look like scrap paper. Some restorers have found multiple sheets inside one car, because different stations on the assembly line each printed their own copy. Some have even found broadcast sheets that belong to a completely different vehicle, mixed in by accident decades ago, which means somewhere out there, another classic is missing its paperwork. And here's the part that really stings. These broadcast sheets were printed on the cheapest paper imaginable. Thin, fragile, continuous feed stock with perforated edges. They were never meant to survive. The factory workers who stuffed them into cars didn't think of them as historical documents. They were working at a pace of over 1,000 cars per day. To them, it was scrap. And because of that, many broadcast sheets that did survive are in rough condition, faded, torn, water-stained. But even a damaged sheet, if it's legible enough to confirm the car's build codes, carries enormous weight. Experts like Galen Govier have made careers out of decoding these sheets. His white books compile the codes for mopar enthusiasts, and the community that's grown around broadcast sheet hunting is intense. People pull apart cars they've owned for decades just to check. Some find nothing. Some find 3 sheets in one car. Some find a sheet from a completely different vehicle, which opens up a whole new mystery. The lesson here is blunt. Before you tear into any classic mopar, or any American muscle car from this era for that matter, because GM and Ford had their own versions of build documentation hiding in similar places. Go through that interior inch by inch. Every fold of carpet, every spring in every seat, every panel. The back seat springs are the most common hiding spot. The area above the glove box is the second. But they've been found in every conceivable location, even between the frame horn and the bumper bracket. You might be holding the single document that doubles the car's value, the factory tool roll. This one separates the casual buyers from the serious collectors, and it applies to some of the most expensive classic cars ever built. When Ferrari delivered a 250 GT or a 275 GTB in the 1960s, the car came with a leather tool roll in the trunk. Inside that roll was a carefully arranged set of beta wrenches, screwdrivers with red handles, pliers, a pillar jack, a grease gun, a carburetor jet key, steel and lead hammers, and sometimes even spare spark plugs and a generator belt. Every tool was specific to the car. Every piece had its place. Today, a complete and original tool roll for a Ferrari 250 or 275 can sell for $8,000 to $10,000 on its own. Just the tools, not the car. An incomplete set with a few reproduction pieces mixed in, sold on Bring a Trailer for nearly $9,000. A single correct screwdriver with the right red handle from one of these sets can bring hundreds of dollars by itself. And the leather roll without any tools at all, if it's the correct vintage and configuration, will still fetch $500 or more. The same principle applies to Porsche. Every air-cooled 911 from the 1960s through the 80s came with a Hazet tool roll tucked behind a panel in the trunk. Plated wrenches, pliers, a tire gauge on the earlier 356 models, a drive belt, gloves, and tire-changing equipment. The original leather Pepita pattern tool bag for a 1965 to 1973 911, the kind that Porsche now sells as a reproduction for considerable money, is a concours requirement. If you're showing a vintage 911 at a judged event, and that tool roll is missing or incomplete, you lose points the same as if the car were missing its steering wheel. Mercedes did the same. The 300 SL Gullwing came with a factory toolkit, and Mercedes still 3D prints replacement parts for those kits today because the originals are so scarce and so critical to the car's completeness. Pre-war Rolls-Royce and Bentley models had toolkits built into the running boards, and those original sets are among the most prized automotive accessories in existence. What kills me is how often these toolkits get separated from the car. The first owner takes them out to make room in the trunk. The second owner doesn't even know they existed. The third owner sells the car at a swap meet, and the tools end up in a coffee can in somebody's garage. Meanwhile, a concours judge at Pebble Beach is going to open that trunk and look for that exact tool roll. And if it's not there, the car takes a hit. There's a whole ecosystem around sourcing these tools. Companies like Sierra Matter Collection produce reproduction tool rolls for vintage Porsches. Specialists on eBay and at Hershey swap meets deal exclusively in matched Ferrari tool sets. The demand is real and the prices reflect it. Even individual tools carry weight. A single correct Hazet wrench from a 1960s 911 can sell for $50 or more. A Porsche leather tool roll in good condition, without any of the tools inside, still commands north of $500 because the bag itself is model-specific and date-verifiable. BMW was no different. Through the late 1980s, BMWs came with beautiful Heiko tool kits mounted in the trunk lid. Screwdrivers, wrenches, pliers, everything arranged in a fitted tray. The screwdrivers had color-coded handles, and the rare red-handled variants from certain model years have sold for $75 or more apiece. Just a screwdriver. If you ever buy a classic European sports car, and it comes with its factory tools, you are sitting on a significant piece of the car's total value. Protect it accordingly, photograph it, catalog it, And whatever you do, don't use those tools to actually work on the car. Buy a set of modern wrenches for that. The originals are museum pieces. The original window sticker. You know that sticker on the window of a new car at the dealership? The one that lists the price, the options, the engine, the color. It's officially called a Monroney label, named after Senator Mike Monroney, who pushed the law requiring them back in 1958. On a new car, most people peel it off and throw it in a drawer. On a classic car, that same sticker can be worth a small fortune. An original window sticker proves what the car cost new, what options were factory installed, and what the dealer added. For cars where specific option packages dramatically affect value, like a Z28 Camaro with the right cowl induction setup, or a big block Chevelle with a particular rear axle ratio, the window sticker is the clearest proof of what left the factory. It removes all doubt. Here's the thing. The survival rate of these stickers is almost zero. They were never designed to last. Most were thrown away at the dealership before the buyer even drove off the lot. The ones that survived typically ended up in glove boxes, folded inside owner's manuals, or tucked into the original purchase paperwork that some meticulous first owner filed in a cabinet at home. When a high-value classic comes to auction accompanied by its original window sticker, auction houses call it out specifically in the listing description. It's treated as a provenance document on the same level as a title history or a celebrity ownership record. For the right car, the sticker alone can add 5 figures to the hammer price. For something like a documented, low-production COPO Camaro or a Hemi Cuda, the window sticker is practically priceless, because it's the final word on what that car truly is. I'll tell you a story I heard from a restorer in the Midwest. He bought a 1970 Plymouth Duster 340, not a high-dollar car by anyone's estimation. Paid about $12,000 for it. When he pulled the dash apart, he found the original window sticker folded and wedged behind the radio. That sticker confirmed a rare option package that the fender tag alone couldn't verify. Suddenly, the car wasn't a base Duster with a 340 swap. It was a factory-documented, optioned-up small block car with a verified history. The value nearly tripled overnight, all because of a piece of paper that had been sitting behind a radio for 53 years. If you're evaluating a classic to buy, ask about the paperwork. Don't just look under the hood, look in the filing cabinet. Ask the seller if they have the original purchase folder. Some dealerships used to put the window sticker, the invoice, and the warranty card all in a branded folder and hand it to the buyer. If that folder survived, you're looking at the entire identity of the car in one package. If you're the kind of person who pays attention to the details that most people overlook, you're exactly the audience this channel was built for. Take a second to subscribe and join a group of enthusiasts who care more about engineering and authenticity than flash and hype. We're building something here for people who actually turn wrenches. The dealer-installed accessories tag. This one is subtle, and it's the kind of detail that separates a car worth collecting from a car worth flipping. During the 1950s and 60s, dealerships didn't just sell cars off the lot as they came from the factory. Many dealers installed their own accessories before delivering the car to the buyer. Things like dealer-installed air conditioning units, under-dash gauges, custom radios, fog lights, and special trim packages. These installations were often documented on a small tag or plate affixed somewhere inside the engine bay, under the dash, or on the firewall. These dealer accessory tags are tiny, easy to overlook, and incredibly valuable to restorers trying to document a car's complete history. A car that can be traced not just to the factory, but to the original selling dealer, with evidence of what that dealer added, becomes a more complete historical object. For marques like Shelby, where many cars were modified by specific dealerships before delivery, these tags can directly affect value. A Shelby that can be traced back to a specific high-performance motors or Tosca Ford dealership, with the dealer's own tag still on the firewall, carries a provenance that collectors will pay a premium for. But this goes beyond Shelby. Many Chevrolet dealers installed their own high-performance packages in the 60s. Yenko Chevrolet, Dana Chevrolet, Berger Chevrolet. These were dealer names that carried as much weight as factory option codes. If a car passed through one of these dealers and still carries the evidence, that's not a detail. That's a headline. The problem is that most people strip these tags during restoration without realizing their significance. They look like random stickers or small metal plates that don't match the factory finish, so they get cleaned off, painted over, or tossed. I've seen restorers sandblast a firewall and take a dealer tag right off with the old paint, not even knowing what they destroyed. But a Core level restorer will tell you that a documented dealer tag, combined with the original purchase records, creates a provenance chain that is almost impossible to replicate. And in the world of high-dollar classics, provenance is everything. It's the difference between a car with a story and a car that's just old. The spare parts bag this is one that almost nobody talks about. And it's one of my favorites because it reveals so much about how manufacturers used to think about their customers. Many European manufacturers in the 1950s and 60s shipped their cars with a small cloth or leather bag containing spare parts. Not tools, actual parts. Spare light bulbs, extra fuses, sometimes a fan belt, occasionally even spare ignition points. Porsche did this, Mercedes did it, Jaguar did it with certain models. The idea was that if you were driving through the countryside and something small failed, you could handle it yourself without hunting for a parts supplier. These spare parts bags are nearly always lost. They get used up, thrown away, or separated from the car within the first few years of ownership. Finding one that's original, unopened, and still contains its factory-packed contents is extraordinarily rare. And in Core judging, these bags are checked. Judges know exactly what should be in them for each model and year. A correct spare parts bag with the right bulbs, the right fuses, and the right supplementary items can be the difference between a score of 97 and a perfect 100. For collectors who compete at that level, a complete spare parts bag can be worth well over $1,000, and for certain rare models, considerably more. Reproduction bags exist, but they're identifiable to experienced judges. The originals carry weight that reproductions never will. The owner's manual and service booklet. I know this sounds obvious. Everyone knows a car comes with an owner's manual. But here's what most people don't understand. For classic cars, the original owner's manual and the accompanying service booklet are not generic. They're specific to the car, and in some cases, they contain handwritten entries that create an irreplaceable record of the car's life. Ferrari's service booklets, for example, were stamped and signed by the servicing dealer at each maintenance interval. A 275 GTB that comes with its original booklet showing a complete chain of dealer stamps from the 1960s is a car with verified provenance. Each stamp ties the car to a specific time, place, and mechanical event. You can trace where the car was, who worked on it, and what was done. This kind of documentation is what Ferrari's own classic certification program looks for when issuing their Red Book, the official factory authentication that can add 6 figures to a car's value. The same applies broadly. A BMW 2002 with its original Bavarian Motor Works booklet, a Jaguar E-Type with its factory service record, a Corvette with its original owner's manual, and the Protectoplate warranty card. These items prove the car's identity in a way that mechanical inspection alone cannot. The tragedy is that owners' manuals get separated from cars constantly. They end up on eBay, sold for $20 or $30 to someone who doesn't even own the matching car. Meanwhile, the car itself loses a piece of its story permanently. If you own a classic, keep the manual with the car. If you're buying a classic and the manual comes with it, you just gained something that no amount of restoration can reproduce. The trunk-mounted first aid kit. This one will surprise a lot of people. Several European manufacturers, especially Mercedes-Benz and BMW, shipped their cars with factory-specific first aid kits mounted in the trunk. These weren't generic drugstore kits. They were manufacturer-branded, model-specific packages with particular contents and particular packaging. A sealed, unopened first aid kit from a late 1980s BMW, still in its original container with the correct date codes, has been listed for over $200. For older and rarer cars, the kits command even more, not because anyone plans to use the bandages, but because they represent completeness. In concours judging, every item that left the factory with the car is evaluated. The first aid kit is one of the most commonly missing items because people either use them or remove them to make space. Mercedes was particularly consistent about including these kits, and their specific design changed across model years, which means judges can verify whether the kit in the car matches the production date. If it doesn't, or if it's missing entirely, that's a deduction. For most everyday enthusiasts, this seems like an absurd thing to care about. But in the world of serious collecting, these small details are how cars are separated into tiers. A car with everything, down to the first aid kit and the warning triangle, signals that it was cared for by someone who understood what the car was. That signal alone affects what buyers are willing to pay. Hidden compartment valuables. Here's where things get genuinely unpredictable. Classic cars have been storing people's secrets for decades, and sometimes those secrets have real monetary value. During pre-scrapping inspections, technicians have found cash hidden inside dashboard cavities, behind door panels, and under floor mats. Wedding rings have turned up wedged between seats and center consoles. Important documents, stock certificates, insurance policies, and personal letters have been found tucked into compartments that hadn't been opened in 30 or 40 years. One of the more remarkable stories involves a Bugatti Type 57S Adelante, one of only 17 ever made, that sat forgotten in a Newcastle garage for over 50 years after its owner, a Dr. Harold Carr, parked it there in the 1950s and essentially forgot about it. When the car was finally discovered in 2007, it sold for approximately $4.5 million. The car itself was the treasure, obviously, but the circumstances reveal the broader truth. Classic cars are time capsules. They preserve whatever was placed inside them, with a kind of accidental archival care. The glove box of a 1950s Cadillac might still contain the original road maps, the registration from the Eisenhower era, the receipts from a cross-country trip. A 1960s Corvette might have its original Protecto plate still tucked in the owner's manual pocket. These items, while not always worth thousands individually, collectively build a picture of authenticity that is deeply valuable to collectors and historians alike. An original road map from a specific era, with a specific fuel company's branding, can fetch real money from the right buyer. A factory receipt from a dealer service visit in 1967 can prove where the car was and who was caring for it, which feeds directly into the provenance story. There's a collector in France named Roger Balin who spent years accumulating rare cars from the 1950s and 60s, intending to build a private museum. When his business failed, the cars just sat for decades. When the collection was finally uncovered and sent to auction, a Ferrari 250 GT California Spider that had been buried under a pile of old car magazines, sold for nearly $16 million. The magazines themselves became part of the story. Everything inside and around these cars became evidence of their untouched, time capsule nature. The practical takeaway is this: when you acquire a classic car, don't rush the teardown. Go through every compartment, every pocket, every fold. Check behind the sun visors, open the ashtray, reach under the seats. You're not just looking for parts, you're looking for history. And history in the right hands is worth more than chrome. The classic Red Book, this one, applies specifically to Ferrari, but its implications reach across the entire collector car market. Ferrari's Classic program is the factory's own certification process. When a Ferrari owner submits their car for classic evaluation, Ferrari's team inspects the vehicle against its original factory records, verifying the engine number, gearbox number, body, chassis, and every major component. If everything checks out, the car receives a red book, an official binder with the Ferrari seal confirming that the car is what it claims to be. The red book stays with the car. It's typically kept in the cabin or with the car's documentation package, and it changes everything about how that car is perceived at auction. A Ferrari 275 GTB with a classic red book confirming numbers matching status will reliably command a higher price than an identical car without one. We're not talking about a few percentage points. In some cases, the presence or absence of the red book can swing the value by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The book itself cost the original applicant a few $1,000s to obtain, plus the cost of shipping the car to Italy for inspection. But the return on that investment, in terms of what it does to the car's market position, is extraordinary. Consider what's actually in the red book. Ferrari photographs the car, documents every serial number, and compares everything against their own factory archive. Enzo Ferrari's only surviving son, Piero, has been involved in the final sign-off on these certifications. If the car has incorrect parts, Ferrari will actually rebuild it to factory-correct specification, including casting a new, correctly serialized engine block if necessary. That's the level of commitment behind this program. When you look at major auction results from RM Sotheby's or Gooding and Company, the cars that achieve the highest prices almost always include the red book in their listing. A 275 GTB recently offered at auction came accompanied by its red book, owner's guides, tool roll, history file, and a report from marque expert Marcel Massini. That package of documentation, all of it stored inside or with the car, is what transforms a beautiful old Ferrari into a verified, authenticated, investment-grade asset. Other manufacturers have followed suit with their own authentication programs. Porsche has its own classic division, with 2 facilities, one in Stuttgart and one in Atlanta, capable of restoring any historic Porsche. Mercedes has its Classic Center, which opened in 1993 and stocks over 50,000 parts unique to its heritage models. But Ferrari's red book remains the gold standard. If you ever encounter a Ferrari with its red book present and verified, you're looking at a car that has already passed the highest level of factory scrutiny. That book, sitting in the glove box or tucked behind the seat, is one of the most quietly powerful items in the entire classic car world. The matching numbers spare tire and jack. This is the kind of detail that separates a 95-point car from a 100-point car, and it's one of the most commonly overlooked items during any restoration. When a car left the factory, the spare tire and jack assembly were matched to the production date of the vehicle. The tire carried a date code that corresponded with the car's build week. The jack had its own markings, often including a part number and sometimes a date stamp. For concours-level restorations, judges verify these codes. A spare tire with a date code that doesn't match the car's production window is a deduction. A jack with the wrong part number, even if it's the same type, is a deduction. Most people don't think twice about the spare. It sits in the trunk well, hidden under a board or a piece of carpet, and nobody looks at it until they have a flat. But the serious restorer knows that a date-correct spare tire, still mounted on its original wheel with the correct date-coded jack and the proper mounting hardware, is a component of the car's total authenticity, just as important as the engine stampings. Here's the reality of the market. For high-dollar restorations, people pay hundreds or even thousands of dollars to source date-correct spare tires. Vendors specialize in NOS, new old stock, tires from the 1960s and 70s, still in their original packaging with verifiable date codes. The same goes for jacks. A correct scissor jack for a 1967 Corvette with the right casting numbers and the right finish is a specific and sought-after item. The lug wrench, the jack base, even the wing nut that holds the spare down. All of these pieces are cataloged by model year and verified at judged events. I talked to a restorer once who spent 8 months tracking down a date-correct Firestone bias-ply spare for a 1969 Camaro Z28. He finally found one at an estate sale in Ohio, still wrapped in its original paper. He paid $400 for a tire, and he considered it a bargain because the alternative was losing points at a national show that the car had taken 3 years and over $100,000 to prepare for. That's the level this market operates at. If you've got a classic sitting in your garage and you've never checked the spare, go look. If the date codes match, you've got something worth protecting. If they don't, now you know what to look for when you're browsing swap meets. And if the spare well is empty, that's a restoration line item you need to start budgeting for. Because the right tire and jack assembly, correct to your car's build date, is going to take time and money to find. The factory paint code tag and trim plate, the last item on this list, is one of the smallest physical objects you'll ever find on a classic car, and it carries enormous weight. Every manufacturer attached some form of identification tag or plate to the car's body during production, indicating the paint code, interior trim code, and often additional production details. On GM cars, you'll find the trim tag on the firewall or cowl. On Mopars, it's the fender tag. On European cars, it might be a plate riveted to the door jamb or the engine compartment. These tags are not decorative. They are the primary physical reference for verifying a car's original color combination, and they're the first thing any knowledgeable buyer checks. A car that's been repainted from its original color is worth significantly less than one wearing its factory paint. And the trim tag is how you prove which is which. But here's the part most people miss. These tags can also reveal hidden options and production details that aren't visible anywhere else on the car. A trim tag might indicate a special order paint color that was only available on a handful of units. It might reveal that the car was originally a fleet vehicle, a taxi, a police package, or a factory show car. Each of these details affects value, sometimes dramatically. The danger is that trim tags get damaged, painted over, or removed during careless bodywork. A repainted car with a missing or illegible trim tag is a car with a broken chain of evidence. You can't prove what it was, which means you can't prove what it's worth. Smart restorers photograph and document these tags before any work begins. They protect them during paint and body repairs. And when buying a car, they check the tag first, before they even turn the key. Because if the tag is wrong or missing, everything else about the car becomes a question mark. That's 10 items. 10 things that live inside classic cars, most of them small enough to hold in your hand, and every one of them capable of moving the value needle by thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. The broadcast sheet crumpled under the back seat, the tool roll wrapped in leather in the trunk, the window sticker folded inside the original manual, the first aid kit nobody ever opened, the paint code tag that tells you the car's real story. There's a pattern here, and I want to make sure you see it clearly. The cars themselves get all the attention. The chrome, the curves, the sound of the engine. That's what fills showrooms and drives bidding wars. But the quiet items, the paper, the tags, the small factory-packed accessories, those are the things that prove the car is real. And in a market where clones, tributes, and mislabeled cars are everywhere, proof is the most valuable commodity there is. Think about it this way. 2 identical-looking 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cudas roll up to an auction. Same color, same engine, same condition. One has its broadcast sheet, its window sticker, and its original fender tag with matching codes. The other has none of those things. The first car sells for 3 times what the second car brings. That's not luck. That's documentation. That's what these 10 items represent. This is the kind of knowledge that doesn't come from scrolling through listings at 2 in the morning. It comes from years of pulling cars apart and learning where the real value hides. So here's the challenge. Stop looking at classic cars the way most people do, just the body. The motor, the price tag. Start looking at what's inside. Check the compartments, read the tags, unfold the paper. Because one smart observation, one thing that everybody else walked past, can be the difference between buying a car and buying a fortune. Next time you're at a swap meet, an estate sale, or standing in front of a dusty car in somebody's garage, don't just pop the hood, open the glove box, pull the back seat, check the trunk well, look at every tag, every plate, every scrap of paper. People who build serious collections aren't just car buyers. They're detectives, and the evidence they're gathering is sitting right there, inside the car, waiting for someone smart enough to recognize it. If this changed the way you think about classic cars, hit subscribe. Share this with someone who's about to start a restoration, and leave a comment telling me the most unexpected thing you've ever found inside a classic car. I promise you, the stories in this community are better than anything on television. I'll see you in the next one.